Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to Further Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Back again with another scouting series of somebody I think that has sparked a lot of interest for Aston Villa fans and fans of other teams around the world, I suppose, really. And that's Jeremie Frimpong from Bayer Leverkusen, formerly of Manchester City's academy, and Celtic in the Scottish League. And I suppose realistically, the reason I wanted to do a piece on him is I can't remember where I did one previously on him. I think I might have done a previous show on him, and if not, I did. I might have mentioned him on a previous podcast when I was looking at right backs that we potentially could go for in the summer. And Jeremie Frimpong is somebody that is very. His name is in lights at the moment. To put it this way, his name has been in lights for maybe about 12 months. At this stage, and realistically, it's because he is very much being likened to this new style. Well, the it's not really new, but in the last 3-4 years, the style of fullback whereby it's attack first. And you got to be really good in attack. Think of the Trent Alexander-Arnolds, and also even going back further to the Dani Alveses of this world. That's kind of where this guy fits in. He's really good going forward for a fullback, scores goals, gets assists, really good at carrying the ball and so on. And he jumps off the page when you look at him, or jumps off the screen, should I say, as well, when you look at him in the flesh, because he's exciting. And football fans want excitement. And he certainly brings that from his output in the attacking third. And we're going to take a little look at him as well, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on him too, in both directions, whether it's going backwards in the defensive point of view or also from that attacking point of view as well. He has been linked with Aston Villa by The Athletic, and a couple of other outlets as well have linked Jeremie Frimpong to Aston Villa. The thought process here is that Villa wouldn't go in for him until the summer. Granted that he has a €40 million or £35 million pound release clause in his contract, which is activated in the summer. That to me would spell that would increase the competition. Leverkusen have come out just today on the 4th of January 2024. They've come out and they said they're not interested in selling any players this January. And January is always difficult. It's the cliche where January is difficult to get transfers done and to get things over the line. And I don't expect this guy to come in January. I mightn't even expect him to come in the summer. But from an attacking point of view, he is probably the rising star of right backs in the top 5 leagues in Europe at the moment, with the amount of prowess he shows in the attacking side of things. When we're going to look at these statistics here in a moment, I want to preface this. I'm looking at it because everybody looks at him from the attacking point of view. It's undeniable the great attacking side of his game this guy has. Just look at his goals, look at his assists, just watch any game he plays. He gets up and down that wing. He gets up that wing anyway, at least at a serious clip. What I want to do is I want to look at him, as always, in comparison to the two fullbacks that we have, but I also want to have more of a look from a defensive point of view at Jeremie Frimpong, because while I've lauded him for the first 4 minutes of this podcast, and don't get me wrong, the guy is an absolute talent, in a back four in the Premier League, there are areas that this guy's going to have to get better at. I watched, I think on Y-Scout, there's 148 instances, or I watched 148, I don't know what I got to the end of it, instances of 1-on-1 duels for Jeremie Frimpong. And I was a bit worried from the point of view of his, how he tackles, how he gets run by in a 1-on-1 situation in the defensive third. And relies on his pace from his defensive point of view. That can obviously be coached out of any player. Surely can. It absolutely can. We've all seen it before. He's a young player. He's not the finished article, specifically in defence. But we're going to take a look at it in a moment. We're going to take a look at his statistics. And as always, I'm going to preface this one, as I do with the majority of other ones that I do, that we're going to speak about this from a statistical point of view. And we're also going to speak from what we've seen point of view. What you see on tape is way better than what you will see in the statistics. Spoiler alert from that point of view. And that's why we always look at both sides of it. That's why sometimes I take my time putting up podcasts or scouting series. That's why, we like to do that. That's why sometimes I put up clips of players that we haven't even been linked with, because they're players that maybe, I've looked at the statistics and went, oh, they look like they're going to fit in. Then you look at what they bring on tape and you're kind of going, actually, yeah, this guy is a good fit for Aston Villa Football Club. But with Jeremie Frimpong, obviously we were linked to him, and it's just something that we've done. We've taken a look at him from both sides of the ledger, whether it be in a statistical point of view, and watch as much of him as I possibly could over the last 3 days on Y-Scout as well. So let's take a little look at Jeremie Frimpong. He's 5'6", and he's right-footed. And what I want to do is here, I've broken down his. Actually, I haven't. His heat map, I thought I took his heat map from two separate years, depending on whether I was looking at him from the viewpoint of a right back or as a right midfielder, but I didn't. I chose the right back heat map. And what you can see here is how far forward he plays, because in an attacking sense, he is really, really eye-catching. He absolutely is. But what you can see here as well, that in an Aston Villa team, and yes, I know we play that high line for sure, but in an Aston Villa team, as a right back and a 4, I do have my concerns, because when we look at his defensive statistics here, tackle rate and also tackle success rate isn't very, very good either. He really, really does look towards being that outlet of getting the ball and attacking, and that's just I'm talking about that in a silo, because what we see from this guy, what we see from this type of fullback in the Premier League, is the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold. They've had to adapt, or the team has to adapt to maybe be able to take that, or have somebody fill in for that position when they do go forward. And that would be probably where Nezri Konsa would come along here. That if we go forward on the right-hand side with Frimpong, that we get narrow from the left-hand side. If we go forward on the left-hand side with Adina or with the Moreno, we get narrow on the right-hand side. Or Boubacar Kamara drifts back into centre-back position. Or the one from left field here is potentially Unai Emery is looking at maybe at some stage playing Frimpong in front of as a right-sided midfielder, which isn't out of the question, or alternatively moving to a back three at some stage over the next over the not too distant future. It's unlikely, but Jeremie Frimpong as a wing back would be sensational in the Premier League. I would say sensational. As in a back 4, I can point to maybe one or two areas that I would imagine Aston Villa fans would have issues with. And I think that number one area for that is his strength in the tackle. His ability to be able to tackle in general, specifically when he's kind of coming from behind. He doesn't really stand players up very well. But his pace is fantastic. If it's a one-on-one duel and you're running to the ball, he's going to get to the ball before you. So he uses his other skills outside of his physical strengths or physical. The fact that he's only 5'6", and the fact that he's quite lightweight, he uses his other physical strengths to his benefit as well. And he's learning. He's only a young guy. He's learning. So he can certainly get better in these areas. Absolutely can get better in these areas. I remember watching him for Celtic when he played with Celtic, and he was very much just an attack first type of fullback. He got away with it in the Scottish League. And since he's moved to Leverkusen, they've found ways, and very, very interesting ways as well, with their midfielders to be able to allow Frimpong to go forward. And in an Aston Villa team, that's exactly what he would do. He would go forward, and he would look really good on that right-hand side. Do not take this as me being negative for him. I'm just giving you the overall view of Jeremie Frimpong, and he's brilliant going forward. And there are some areas that he needs to improve on in defence. And I think that's the right way to look at this guy, because I think we've seen players like him in the Premier League previously, the likes of Tariq Lampteys of this world, who've been a bit more diminutive, very, very fast, and then sometimes they go in and out of flavour within the team. I'm not saying Frimpong can be like this. He's got a lot more on tape than Terry Lamptey does. He's playing at a really high level for Leverkusen, riding high in the Bundesliga. He's also in the Dutch national team as well, riding high. He's on the crest of a wave, and he's definitely the type of player Aston Villa should be looking at. And as I say, this guy can learn how to defend as well, because I suppose realistically his game can be characterized as like he's exceptional pace, exceptional technical skill, a real offensive mindset here, and he's not really like your traditional fullback, because you can see with his heat map, he spends a significant portion of time in his opponent's half. And that's why I have down the right back / right midfield situation there for him. His ability to carry the ball over long distances, his quick feet, he's creative. He's just he is this new age fullback that every team is looking for, and he's an exciting player. As I said, he's a Trent Alexander-Arnold type player, or Dani Alves type player. From what they bring in that attacking sense, and it's fantastic. His ball carrying ability really stands out. You can see there with regards to his dribbles completed from a fullback position, completing 2.32 dribbles puts him in the top 2% of all fullbacks in world football. He is a really good dribbler of the ball from that right back position, and he's successful at almost 50% of all his dribbles, which is really good. And that's why when I look at this here, looking at the statistics, you look at him and go, whoa, you can't really, is this guy all he's cracked up to be? From an offensive point of view, his statistics really wash out. They're absolutely brilliant. You see his key passes, his shot creating actions, goal creating actions. This guy is a creative machine from that right hand side, and he's another weapon in your arsenal if you are a football team, that you can get him there on the overlap, or even make your midfield narrower to compensate for him and allow him go at it up and down that right hand side, because he's got boundless energy for a 21-year-old. And that's why I prefaced at the start, looking at your statistics and maybe looking at stats only gives you a partial view. And that's exactly the case in this instance here. Now, as I said before, bit weak in the tackle, doesn't really know how to play a player from behind. All that stuff can be taught. And that's the wily old stuff you get as you get older, because as I mentioned, he's 21 years of age, and he's already a formidable talent on that side. On that side of the field, but like he's got such a low center of gravity that when he's building up pace, and he goes from 0 to 60 very, very quickly, it makes him a nightmare for defenders or for other midfielders trying to catch him. He's small as well. He navigates through tight spaces, gets to the end line, or can carry the ball into the box as well. Something I've been very critical of Matty Cash for not doing. Specifically from the fullback position, and when he's going forward at people, winning that one-on-one against somebody when he has the ball at his feet, he is very adept at that as well. So he's quite the offensive dynamo, I would say, and really exciting, and someone that the Aston Villa fans will certainly would take to if we were to sign him in the summer from that point of view. But as I said, despite his attacking prowess, his defensive abilities and it's not just me that's discussing it. It has been discussed at length, even by Leverkusen fans, and it was even at Celtic it was discussed there as well. One-on-one defensive situations, recovering the ball in an actual duel situation when the ball isn't a loose ball situation. There are certain areas there where he has to get a lot more streetwise and improve. I mentioned about his small physical frame as well. His ability in the air is not great. Obviously, he's 5'6". You would expect that as well, but his offensive contributions outweigh his defensive shortcomings for certain, and he has been an absolute pivotal point in the Leverkusen setup, and that's why I liken him to the Dani Alveses of this world, or to the Trent Alexander-Arnolds, because teams over time were able to work with that offensive dynamism and the shortcomings in the defensive side of things, bring the defensive side of things up to a certain level, and then be able to cope with how the team works as a whole, and utilize the best out of those two players. And who's to say that couldn't happen with Frimpong as well? It's happening at Bayer Leverkusen at the moment, and I'm sure Unai Emery would have a trick up his sleeve if he was to sign a player like Jeremie Frimpong. So when we look at him here, as I said, the statistics are nothing to write home about. We obviously have two more defensive-minded fullbacks in there at the moment, and we can see that, and we can see where the spikes come from. Frimpong is in the shot-creating actions. And I'm going to move on here to just in comparison to John McGinn, because, excuse me, I think John McGinn would be, I was loath to put him up against a Leon Bailey or Diaby because of the fact that they are true wingers as such, whereas this guy is kind of hybrid with regards to that. So I put him up against John McGinn, and I know it's not a fair fight there, but I wanted to show what he could bring to the team from that right-hand side, because when we saw this team play with John McGinn on that right-hand side, and the ability that John had to be able to do some defensive work to help out that right back, I thought this was interesting. And when we look at it here, John McGinn is actually, is just a fantastic player, and we know that. And I wasn't expecting Jeremie Frimpong's statistics to match up to where McGinn's do. But what I will say for Frimpong is that when we look at the shot creating actions he has there, if you put those up against right midfielders, if you put them up against right wingers, they're up there. They're up there. And at the end of the day, we need the creativity and even the goal creating actions here as well. It's still up there in the top 8%. So the reason I'm talking about this is offensively, regardless of where you put him on that right-hand side, he is a talent, a real talent. And that outweighs anything else, I think, for me, from a Jeremie Frimpong point of view. Will Villa sign him in January? I'm going to say they won't. Will Villa sign him in the summer? I'm going to say I hope so. But in the meantime, if Villa could very easily decide they need to move on from this potential signing, and if they do, we will look at a couple of other talents that I think that they may turn to. Personally, I think that Unai Emery may want a more defensive-minded right back, albeit you couldn't pass up somebody like Jeremie Frimpong if you had the opportunity to sign him, because you would have to believe at 21 that you were able to teach him how to defend better. And it's not that he's a bad defender. I'm saying you could teach him how to defend better. Would Unai Emery pass up that chance? Absolutely not. You'd be absolutely insane to. But might there come a point of diminishing returns having to wait until the summer? Potentially, absolutely potentially. So we have a couple of other people in mind that we will, that I will chat about in the coming days as well. And as I say, Jeremie Frimpong, superb player, would be an absolute gem for Aston Villa if we were to sign him. And I hope you've enjoyed this podcast on him, the good and the bad. And as I say, if you do like these, please give us a thumbs up. Please like the channel. Please subscribe to the channel as well. It costs you nothing to do. And this month of January is going to be pretty busy, I think, with regards to the people we're going to talk about. And we would love to have you on board for any future podcasts that we have. So thanks so much for watching. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy. And all that's left to say is up the Villa.